Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. I am so excited to be here with you. Of course, I'm also excited to be here with Valer Shabilla and Clay Trainum to talk about how awesome, amazing, fantastic our Nashville soccer team actually is. I do feel like this does change like every single week, though, when it comes to, hey, we're amazing to, we're just kind of here at this moment. Is this a me thing, or is this just the emotional flexing that we have this entirety with this team?
Seems like you're projecting a little bit because I feel like it's overall been a pretty positive season for Nashville SC. just my thoughts on the matter.
That's fair. That's fair. But with that, Valer, do you have a good weekend this weekend?
Yeah, not too bad, man. Just Nashville SC. It's crazy having these games. Kind of feels like every day at this point. But no, it's good. It's good. Weekend. I'm trying to think of what I did. I spent a long time on Sunday, kind of just like doing random things. Like we went shopping a little bit, I guess, and then like just walked around World Market. Is that what it's called? Like place where they have stuff from all over the world, and it's like crazy overpriced
I mean,
items.
the name checks out as World
Yeah,
Market
yeah. I think
having
that's what it's
world
called.
stuff.
No free
This is the
shout
one down
outs,
here in
but
Murfreesboro.
no, I was in West, so I'm assuming it's a chain. I mean, they probably have one in Murfreesboro too. But but yeah, it was. I mean, I don't know if I would recommend it necessarily, but if you're bored like we were on Sunday and you're right there next to it, I mean, might as well go get you some ham from Spain and some noodles from South Korea. That
You know
where
one
else can
thing
you do that?
one thing we didn't do this weekend, Valer, that we said specifically that we were going to do
I know where this
and
is
make
going.
make a thing to do it was to go get our pharmaceutical soccer merchandise that we did
Yeah.
not do. I did get to see Clay over the weekend though, which was a lot of fun. I normally don't see Clay during matches because he's normally upstairs, but I did get to see him.
Upstairs.
Whatever, you're also upstairs, so it's
That's
fine.
fair. There are stairs, and we do climb them.
Yes, I,
Yeah.
I am the only one that's normally in the
I think
downstairs
Valer
section
takes the
for
elevator.
matches. But Clay, how was your weekend?
I mean, it was a little bit of a weird one. 6 Point Saturday was great. Obviously, seeing an Everton win was good. The It's a strange weekend. We're going to get into why, but my weekend was kind of dominated by upsetting news in the area, and so a lot of it was around that stuff. I was able to play the Parks board game, which is great. And I was able to fit in a trip to go watch part of the youth soccer tournament in Murfreesboro, where an Evansville team came out champions. So shout out to was it FCE something or other? Yeah, shout out to the FCE United. There's a lot going on there. So that was my weekend, but honestly, it was dominated by a topic we're about to talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about that right in a second here. Before that, I had a good weekend. It was fun. Well, bittersweet, of course, as Clay was talking about. It's fun It was fun to be back in Nashville. Obviously, it was a weird weekend to be back in Nashville because I didn't get to see half of the friends that I would want to normally see for reasons that we're going to get into. But from a selfish standpoint, I forgot what it's like to be kind of thrown into the mix of again when it comes to dealing with supporters type of things, and like I was like had like a shaking bit of a rush going through it. Like it's just been a while. Like I've just been on such of like the back burner of like I'm here to support but I'm not necessarily fully in the mix of things, where I was like I had to calm down a security guard this week, which like it was great, like just a very interesting scenario to have happen. But I'm glad I got to see Clay. I'm glad I got to see Valer. I'm glad I got to see a win. It's also something I'm noticing too, being a part of the supporter section, especially coming back to Nashville. I need to figure out a better way to go about it. I still barely get to watch any of the match. It's just like conversations going around, and it's like it's you see people that you haven't seen in so long, so you want to talk to them, but then it's normally happening. There's only 2 hours of soccer, so you don't get that opportunity that often. So I think I missed the Schaffelberg goal, which is unfortunate.
Steven, so the thing is that you're a Chelsea fan, right? And when you left, Nashville wasn't very good. So you just don't like watch winning soccer. That's the problem. Is you would
Real
prefer not to
quickly.
watch because Nashville was really good in 2021 when your back was to the field, and then
Mm.
you are now in a situation where it's hard for you to watch a team win because you're so used to watching a team not be good. Now, me,
I
it's very easy for me to watch a team not be good, but you have I can watch both and be happy. You really only want to watch bad teams.
I do agree with this take and this opinion. And I do think it's a fact more than an opinion, to be honest with you. However, I think you got the team name wrong because we established on this show last week that Manchester United is Steven's team.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's right.
So
That's the reason
your
why.
point
That's the
stands.
reason why it's
Just
easy
the
for
wrong
him.
team. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to now change the topic to the more uppity, positive topic away from this conversation of my Manchester United fandom. But obviously, there was a bigger story kind of surrounding the match this weekend, and that would be the absence of La Brigada through the tailgate and the supporter section due to ICE raids that are currently happening around the city of Nashville in the state of Tennessee, where their community was extremely affected. Personally, I don't think we're going to get into like crazy personal stories about it, just because of the fact that yeah. But I'm kind of going to let Clay just kind of give you a little bit of the history of kind of what has been happening over the weekend, because I think it's good to kind of just give you a grand overview of what did happen, what is continually happening, because this unfortunately is not over. This is one of the reasons why we're talking about it, because this is not over. So, Clay, I'm going to give you just the time to kind of just go into it. If there's any sort of, thing that I can help out in having this conversation as well. But, Clay, go right ahead.
Yeah, so there's a few things that we need to touch on. First off, let's just get out of the way. People who listen to the show know what La Brigada is. I have a feeling that maybe some people who don't normally listen to the show might be listening this week, so let me just kind of explain it. La Brigada started in 2019. The main reason it started was Ava Acosta and Gabby Acosta, who they've been coming to games since the very start. They didn't feel that they were represented in the stands. Abel is Puerto Rican Honduran descent from New Jersey. Gabby is from Mexico, and they're married, of course. And they wanted to try and build a Hispanic fan base in Nashville, where Nashville SC had struggled in that market, which Stephen was in those meetings with me in those early days. It was really uh, a group of people that Nashville SC had a real problem marketing to, and essentially Abel and Gabby built this up by going to every single Latin event that you could possibly imagine to create La Brigada, which resulted in a a, a, a fan group that pulls from every single facet of Nashville. And it isn't just Latin American, it isn't just Hispanic. There were members from, every race, every corner, every like socioeconomic divide made up La Brigada. But the focus was on an active support that was behind a mostly Spanish speaking, group of people. And the end result of that you could see every week at Geodis Park because they very much became the heartbeat of the supporter section, which also like we all dealt with at different times in the creation of that. And it has survived many different iterations, many different members, people moving in, people moving out, all that stuff. So it is a very stable, strong, large group of fans that are in the North End Zone every single Nashville SC game. Now, when they started La Brigada, the only thing that they really wanted to do was bring the Latin influence to the supporters groups in around Nashville SC. That was the plan. But what has happened is that because they draw from every facet of the Latin American community in Nashville, is they've become a pretty powerful force in kind of an identification, uh, for the Latin community in Nashville. And so people know about them. They're out in the community. They do a lot of community events, and they aren't expressly political, but because of things in the world, it kind of ends up, they end up involved. And so keep that in mind as we move into like what's been happening the last week. So last Saturday, or not this past Saturday, but the Saturday prior, the kind of the start of the ICE raids in Nashville began. Now, if you've been in Nashville the last week, you've kind of seen what the process is. And if you watched last week's episode, not on Sunday, but the Sunday prior of last week tonight on HBO, they describe exactly what's happening in a lot of these cities, which is police in Tennessee, it's the state troopers because Metro Nashville PD are not involved, will pull over a driver. And if their immigration status is, quote, in question, ICE will show up behind them. And then it goes from there. Now, the concern is that it doesn't really matter what one's legal status is. And there have been cases, lots of them, if you've been paying attention to the news, of people that are being picked up regardless of their legal status, and they'll figure out the back end of it later. And so in the last week in Nashville, there have been more than 600 arrests. There's certainly been more than 100. There's rumors going around saying significantly more. I'm not sure what the validity of that is, that have actually been detained. Several have basically been detained kind of out of the blue. And then the next time their family talks to them, they're in Louisiana already awaiting hearings and things like that in the court. And so this has directly affected La Brigada and a fairly prominent member of their group who is a young father, 10-month-old child, separated. And so the father is being deported. His partner and child are basically left without a father, and the family try to figure out what to do. And that's a very like specific example, but it's indicative of the things that are going down around the community and the fear that has permeated, especially in South Nashville, because that's the other aspect of this. The reason that people feel targeted in this community is because these raids are specifically happening in Latin communities. You don't hear about them happening in East Nashville. You hear about them happening in South Nashville, or Nolensville Pike. You hear about it happening in Madison. You hear about it happening in Antioch, where I happen to live. It's been in my neighborhood. You can tell Saturday was very quiet. Sunday was very quiet in my neighborhood. So like things have changed, and it has gotten a lot of national publicity because I think specifically because La Brigada has come out and said, we are not attending this game because of this. And they're not inherently a political group. Like I said, it's just they've become indicative of this is a group of people that I know from soccer. And now they're being affected. It's not a Latin rights organization or anything like that, which are important too. I'm not trying to they do unbelievable work, but that is where, that is, I think, why people have been so captured by the story, because it's a group of people that they only think really about as soccer fans.
And I just want to add to this really quickly. I think people listening today, maybe they haven't listened to our show in the past, and this is definitely not a story about us by any means. But look, at the end of the day, this little small soccer show has had to navigate really difficult topics like school shootings and stuff that you wouldn't expect a small soccer show from Nashville to handle. This one affects our community specifically because it's not only immigrants from other countries. It's soccer. It's very specific to this show. So if you're listening to this and you're like, well, why are they talking quote unquote politics? It's more than that for us. I think all three of us have been involved in this world in one way or another, and it's very personal to us as well. To me personally, obviously, I'm an immigrant to the United States. I came in as a refugee. Now, by all means, I was quote unquote legal here, but that seems to be like a discussion point for a lot of people, and I just don't think that's as important as people make it seem like to enter the country legally. Chances are, if you're here illegally, you didn't come here just because you wanted a vacation and you stayed a little longer. You're coming here because this is your last option, last resort, and you paid a lot of money and you went through hell to get here. So I just want to clarify that this isn't, again, we're not going to be the your political source of news, but this is both affecting us personally as well as this community that we serve by having this small soccer show.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult topic, especially because of the fact that over like it's just a political topic, no matter what you talk about. Like there are people specifically that think the way this is the way things should be, and but for us personally, again, we personally have friends getting detained, which is not like I don't want to see that happening. It's not one of the nobody wants to see that happening. Again, La Brigada puts that heartbeat into the. I mean, we had a win yesterday. I mean, on Saturday, and we didn't do any celebration outside into the concourse. Why is that? Because of the fact that is something that La Brigada does. They are the ones that started that. They are the one that started that party. The tailgate was so just eerie because of the fact that all of our friends were not there. And it was just like, and it was rainy and cloudy, and it felt like it just like it just felt so dreary because our friends were not there. So we're not trying to make, again, I think Valera's right. We're not trying to make this like a whole, political. There's other places where you can go to the news, figure that type of stuff out. But when it's affecting our friends, our people, like in the community that we supported, have been around, um, like it's just hard to not talk about and go through with them.
Well, and not to mention the fact, like, no one should have to worry about their livelihood going to a soccer game. Like, it's
No.
just not something that should matter. And some people are have cast doubt in the last few days that they would actually be targeted, which is just nonsense because we've seen it in South Nashville. Um, this all started after a Canelo fight. They're going to Plaza Mariachi after a Canelo fight because they know that there will be Mexican immigrants at Plaza Mariachi to watch the Canelo fight. So they're obviously we're going to be targeting people going home after a Nashville Soccer Club game because they know about these people,
Yep.
And I think that it takes a lot to um, structure your brain to think like this is an inherently bad thing at a soccer game while watching Andy Nahar, who is absolutely one of Nashville SC's best players this season, like without question, and is 100% a person who came into the United States undocumented. He got to DC as an undocumented immigrant. That is how his soccer career started, was as an undocumented immigrant, and he is one of Nashville SC's best players, and he is indicative of kind of what happens. And you look at his past, he had no option. His town was flooded, his house burned down. Like he had to walk like 2 days through a desert to get to America and thrive. And everyone is just really in search of the American dream. And at some point down in time, however many generations back, your family got to the US undocumented too. Like generally speaking, for the vast majority of people here, if they're not Native American, they got people who came here without documentation as well. So it's just a weird place to draw the line.
And you might be sitting there listening to this like this doesn't affect you. Maybe you live somewhere where you don't see a lot of immigrants in your community or whatever it may be. But I just want to let you know, like this show, for example, both Joel and I are immigrants. just this is just our show. If you get even outside of soccer and outside of sports in general, literally go to any business, like any business in town, restaurant. I just saw a story about Broadway, like
Yeah,
those bars.
two restaurants in Broadway had to close down because
Yeah,
of their staff not being able to show up.
so if you think this is like not a big deal, I just highly encourage you to just look outside where you are, because even if you personally don't have friends who are immigrants or know a lot of people in the community who are immigrants, which it's whatever, do you, but this is going to affect you too.
Yeah.
Chances are a restaurant, a business, somebody who just can't be at work or enjoying a soccer match or anything like that.
Well, and Clay brought up last week tonight, and one thing I really like that John Oliver does is he kind of does a what can we do afterwards. And so before we go into the next segment, guys, keep supporting the Latin American businesses around this community because they are definitely going to be affected by what is happening. And this is not done. We have another home match on Wednesday. We have another home match on set. Like we have matches coming up. This is not over. So please make sure you're keeping the community in your thoughts. Clay, if you want to wrap this up.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's also not just Latin businesses because a lot of businesses just general depend on Latin labor in Nashville, especially in the restaurant industry. But I will say this: Abel was at my house yesterday. Interest full disclosure, they don't know what's next for La Brigada. Um, the number one thing that's most important for them is making sure that their folks get to games safely. I asked him about Wednesday. He said they're just going to try and take it day by day, but they will be back in the stands at some point down the line. And I hope as many of them as possible can be back as soon as possible. And we'll see what happens. But we're not going to let this story go away because it's certainly more meaningful than a regular season MLS game, as we've talked about and joked about plenty of times on this show over the years.
But we do have an MLS game to talk about. We're going to do that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. I'm going to try and be as cheery as possible to get into match time at Pharmasoccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, check out 615soccer.com. I mean, it was great on Ben to also release an article on the situation. A lot of information there. So if you have the ability to check that out, please do. But please, 615 Soccer is doing some fantastic work. Spell it out. Join us. It's fantastic. Also, farmersoccer.com. If you saw Clay over the match weekend, he was wearing one of our fantastic, amazing shirts, and they are still
3-0.
undefeated. Still
3-0 in
undefeated.
that shirt.
So I don't know what you're doing. You should be wearing our merch. So please make sure you check it out.
Yeah, and I do want to say thanks to Ben for getting that story out, and also encourage people to sign up. We've had a few sort of subscribers come through since that story came out, and that was kind of encouraging because when you get involved in something like that, I think it's kind of up in the air what could happen, right? But this is, we're not trying to pander to anybody or do anything. This is truly our company that we've started, and this is our opinion for the most part, or at least who we are and who we are trying to serve. So this is just truly what we are trying to do. On a lighter note, I do want to give a huge shout out to Chris for stopping me at the stadium, and he's a listener to the podcast. He's been reading some of the work as well, and just we've messaged each other a few times on a platform, but we haven't met in person. So shout out Chris, thank you for continuing to listen. And you know what? If you want to be like Chris, go ahead and subscribe, and also, um, stop us if you're at Jonas Park and you see one of us.
It is fun, just real quick, even at the stadium, like it has shifted just because I haven't been a part of the supporter stuff for so long. It has now gotten to, oh, hey, you're the supporters guy, to, oh, you're the pharma guy. Like it has absolutely switched to that, and it's a lot of fun. But, anyways, yes, check all that stuff out. We have a match to
They were
talk
just
about. We have a
confused why you're at an NSC game instead of down in Chattanooga. That's all that's going on.
It is really funny when I do come, because I have been coming into town more. It has been like, so why are you here? And it seems like a mean why are you here? I don't think it's meant to be, but it just seems like it. Anyways, 2-1 win for Nashville over Charlotte. Real gritty performance from Nashville. Of course, goals from Jacob Schaffelberg and Hani Mukhtar. Um, I, I mean, I think we have to talk about this match like we have every single match this season as it being a tale of two halves, um, which is, I mean, it's fun when you win, I guess. Like, it's fun to talk about a tale of two halves when you're winning, but it keeps on following that same scenario. I don't know. Where do you guys want to start with this match?
I think
I
I
mean,
think
the
I want to
first
give
half was great.
yeah, I want to start on a bigger picture, and then maybe we can take it to kind of the smaller things that are happening within the match. But on a bigger picture scale, this is, I came in here and talked, I think, last week about the philosophical aspect of the Atlanta United match. So let me get you a philosophical aspect of the Charlotte FC match. But when you look at Charlotte FC, this is one of the best teams in MLS in the last 12, 18 months, probably, since Dean Smith pretty much took over, and he's been able to build a really solid team that is gritty is the word I'm seeing in front of me in the rundown. I think Clay wrote that. It's very gritty. It's a very, very tough physical match. and Charlotte are very hard to break down. You look at how other teams struggle to break them down. And honestly, that was one of my biggest concerns for Nashville SC going into this match is that, okay, you can play against the press, but what happens when there's a low block that is very compact, that there are, 10 or 8 players in the box at any given moment? How are you going to break that down? And I thought Nashville SC did really well with that, because I think other than the first 10 minutes or so, Charlotte had a little bit of a sort of dominance on the game the first 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. But really, Nashville SC took off from that moment on and didn't let off even after Charlotte scored their goal. And I think that's a testament to this team and what it's able to do, because now there's a new way of beating teams that Nashville SC is adding to their arsenal, if you would. That it doesn't need to be a team playing high defense. It doesn't need to be a team playing crazy press. It could be a team that's kind of sitting there and maybe waiting for you to do something with the ball. And Nashville SC, if you look at their 2 goals, that's the most. They're not set pieces. They're not corners. Not that there's anything wrong with those goals, but I'm just saying they were able to create and score from the middle. And that is something that is very, very important and a hallmark of a good team.
They took the opportunities they had, which has been something that we've been talking about with this team for a very this entire season of what are they going to do with the opportunities they have had.
I
Stats,
mean, they
expected
did in
goals, they've
they
looked
did in the
fantastic.
second half. In
Well,
the
yeah, in the
first
second half,
half,
right.
it's like, yeah. That the only thing that really was frustrating to me is seeing the team not find a way through in that first half, where Charlotte scoring early in the second half was kind of the most predictable thing ever for anybody who's watched a game, where it's like, oh, that team had so many opportunities to take a goal or two from the half, didn't get anything, and then gave up a goal immediately to start the second half. I mean, how many times do we see that a weekend, watching soccer around the world? And that was the part that, Nashville is still figuring out. I think they're also still figuring out how pieces fit together. And I think that this was actually a really interesting case study for that, because I think um, one of the things that really stuck out to me. I mean, we've talked about the competition for one of the wing spots, and I think like uh, Schaffelberg probably had his best performance since maybe the Miami game last year, where he scored twice.
Hmm.
Like he was really involved, and the thing that sticks out to me, he was really involved in a way that we aren't used to when he has a good game. You know what I mean? Like, I guess the Chicago game, he was pretty good, but he was pretty good in a way that we expect him to be good, where he's getting in behind and he's taking advantage of his speed. And what really stuck out to me is that he was really involved in this game, but it wasn't always the way that we expect him to be involved, which shows a little bit of a bit of growth from some of his performances from previous games. And that's the thing that we've been kind of hammering home is he needs to be a more complete player. And I think that he had a few crosses that he definitely would like a second or third or fourth try on. His crossing is still not quite where you want it to be, but overall, he looked more of a not finished product, but he looked more of a complete player in this match than I think he has in any other match this season.
Yeah, and we asked Jacob Schaffelberg about this after the match, and he did give credit to Andy and Hani Mukhtar, Andy Nahar and Hani Mukhtar being on that side, and he said kind of combining with them and being able to have a more of a fluid sort of passing sequences with them and that right side, they make his life easier. Pretty much is what he said. The other aspect I want to talk about is that when we asked BJ Callahan about this, he said pretty much what you're saying, Clay. But another point he really kind of tried to drive home is that they are working with Schaffelberg on his pressing and on his defensive side. Now, when I say defensive side, that doesn't mean coming back and helping the fullback. Talking about how he wins the ball when the opponent has the ball in the opponent's half, and that's the part that I think, if Jacob Schaffelberg can be half of what Sam Surridge is on the press, he will be a menace on both sides of the ball. And maybe he'll get there. I'm not saying he can't get there, but that's something that once he's added to his arsenal is going to look really good.
Well, and that's another thing that kind of stuck out. We're going to talk about Hani, obviously. He's on a tear. But like I also noticed I mean, Shaffelburg's primary competition for that role is Ahmed Qasim, who has not had very many good performances here recently. But when Qasim came in that game, he did put in more defensive work than I've seen him put in his last few times out. So it's clearly been an emphasis because, I mean, we talk about it all the time, so it's kind of like not even worth mentioning, but it's like competition creates ways for players to improve. So now you've got both of them improving, defensively from where they were. And that just makes Nashville so much better. It just makes that like so much harder to defend and just so much better. And it also helps to not put the whole load on Honey because like Nashville's getting goals from everyone as well.
Yep.
I mean, it's always fun with this show just because we're always like, okay, like we have to talk about Hani, like in some like back, like all right, we just have to do it. Like he's just a player that we have to talk about every single time. Um, Best goal scored this year, probably for sure, from a Nashville SC perspective. Alex Muil is incredible as a player. I'm starting to get it more now. Like I really
Yes.
am starting to like understand it more. I don't
We
know
did
if
it,
it's in
Chad. We did it.
I don't know if it's in the cheering way that you're talking about, Valer, because like, first half, whatever. But that whole sequence was just absolutely incredible. I don't think I've ever seen Nashville score a goal like in that ridiculous of a sequence ever before in my existence of watching this team. That was so much fun.
And there were multiple things like that happening. Like I clipped one of the passing sequences and I put it on Twitter as well. And it's like these were happening. They didn't always result in goals, obviously because that doesn't happen in soccer. But a lot of that sort of confidence, that swagger in playing, it's coming. It's building up, and that has to do largely with Nashville being undefeated since that Seattle game. They did draw against Atlanta away, but they've been able to beat the Red Wolves with a rotated side. They were able to score 7 against Chicago. Stuff like that really does give you a lot of confidence. And look, when you play a team like Charlotte and you dominate the game and you win in your own way of playing, not sitting back. But I do want to go back to this one point of sitting back and maybe defending the last 10 minutes. And it's not a sit back and park the bus situation. It's more of managing the game situation because it wasn't desperate. It was calculated and it was smart. And I really, really did not. I mean, this is the biggest surprise to come out of maybe the last month or so from Nashville SC is that I didn't expect them to have that sort of game management skills. It really caught me off guard because I've seen this team give up goals kind of late. I've also seen this team just struggle defensively, if we're being honest. But man, that last 10 minutes or so, Charlotte had like one and a half chances, give or take.
There
But
was one really good one, to be fair.
yeah, but I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that like they limited those chances despite
Yeah.
not being on the ball. So being able to control the game on the ball and off the ball is gonna be really beneficial for this team going forward. And look, back to the Hani point real quickly. I mean, he's had a goal contribution every game since the Seattle game. He didn't play the Chattanooga game, but 8 goals and assist in 12 matches so far, 8 and 12. So yeah, I guess it's a slow start or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what else you want
I
from
think it's
him.
statistically his best start.
Yeah,
I think
exactly. It's
this
not a
now
slow
makes him
start at all.
statistically his
Like,
best.
yeah,
Yeah. I was just curious if Valaire was after that Alex Muil backheel assist is if he was going to start calling BJ Arsene Callahan or something like that.
man.
The
So
give Jack Wilshere vibes.
actually, BJ brought this up in the press conference as well. Last season was Alex Muil's best goal scoring season. So he it was a season high for him, and that was I think like 4 or 5 of those goals came but under BJ Callahan. So there's clearly something there.
Yeah. But on the Hani thing, just real quick, I think that it's easy to lose sight of just how good he is because of how spoiled we've been in Nashville to watch him. Like everyone was upset about a clearly not good season last year where he had 18 goal contributions. You know what I mean? Like that's not very good by his standards, but that's pretty good return on a DP overall for MLS, and we just thought it was a failure of a season for Honey, which tells you just the level that he's gotten to. And I think, like, in terms of this season, like where he's playing, the style that he's playing with, I think that you can kind of lose sight of how good he actually is. One of the things that I would say is that was weird. One of the things that I would
Sorry,
say,
guys. Apologies, real quick. Hani just heard this and was giving Clay a call about telling his season he was a failure. That's why he called. So sorry about that.
it's weird that I've never had it ring like that. It's usually quiet. But anyway, back to what I was saying on Honey is that the confidence that he's showing playing in this role is the part that's so wild to me because, and this started before he hit this run of, be it getting a goal contribution every game. He's tried to score from 40, 45 twice in the last like 3 matches. And you're not doing that if you're not thinking you might score. And
Well,
that is the sign of a confident player.
Well, and I think it is kind of crazy too, like as he does kind of get more into BJ's form. I think Valer talked about it specifically where Hani doesn't need to be the player that he was under Gary Smith. Like he has resources around him that are just going to make him better. If anything, he's starting to kind of remind me of just his importance of kind of how Ricky Pooch is. Like if Hani's gone out of this team specifically, he's kind of the backbone of it. We're going to turn into LA Galaxy. I really hope not. If Hani's out, we don't turn into the LA Galaxy. But it's one of those things where he's just as he fits more into the system, into this role, as kind of the captain. I mean, he's kind of more the facilitator than the primary target nowadays. He reminds me of the dude in Ted Lasso, where it's don't play to me, play through me. That's total football. That is kind of what Hani is starting to remind me of in this
Uh,
form.
I just want to let you know that that was the most I've hated something coming out of your mouth, and there's been a lot that I've hated in my life. But Ted Lasso or not, I'm not a hater. It's just like whatever. It's not real.
Kind of sounds like a
I
hater.
do want to give statistical backing to both of your points about Hani because I was looking at this before you even said anything, and you both kind of made the point on the eye test. And I'll say this: he's 95 percentile in MLS in terms of chances created, but for attacking midfielders and wingers, and he's 96 percentile in shots attempted in MLS. So he is really coming into form and coming into this confidence, and both of your points are very much valid, both in the stats and anybody watching the match.
He's also 95th percentile in height. Actually, probably not. But anyways, I do want to talk about a couple other things. I want you guys to kind of give a standout player as well. But there was a couple you brought up the last 10 minutes. This team has the ability to make me hate players that I previously have loved. And I specifically want to talk about Wilfred Zaha at the end of that 10 minutes. The amount of frustration that he was having at the end was absolutely hilarious. I did not realize that Andy Nahar had that defensive ability, and he had Wilfred Zaha in his pocket. It was really cool to see. Also, Nashville's social media has gotten to an amazing place, and they need some credit when it comes to the shade that they are throwing on social media. So those are my two standouts at the current moment. But if you guys have any other standouts for the performance, I'm all ears.
I just wanted to say that it was another fullback goal contribution from Andy Nahar. So, I mean, it's just crazy at this point how many that there have been this season. So, shout out to the fullbacks. I already mentioned Kasim, but I really think that was a very important thing to see him come in and be. He didn't get a goal contribution or anything, obviously, but to come in and be effective playing in that role, I think is something that he needed for his own confidence, and that'll be good for Nashville, especially because it's a 2 week or 2 match week coming up.
Are we tired of talking about Eddie Taxeth?
No, absolutely not.
Okay,
No, we are
because
absolutely not.
yeah,
No, we are not tired
you
about
can
talking about Eddie.
you can pick him for this category every single game he's played for Nashville SC, and I'm not even exaggerating.
I love him. Like I just love it. Like it is crazy. Even so, when you started doing a chant, the Eddie chant in the supporter
Yeah.
section, he had the biggest smile on his face. Like in what like it you cannot. It's the player. It's the person. Just Eddie is awesome. He's just one of one of the best signings that Nashville has had, probably.
Nashville fans love to chant Eddie. It goes back many, many, many years on chanting Eddie in the stands.
I
But
did put
the
that on
one,
my tweet, just so we're clear.
yeah, the one of the things that I'd like to point out here is Taxeth has been playing trying to avoid a yellow card for what 6 matches, 5 matches now, and
No,
I
because I
think
think if he
that
goes 5, then it resets, right? So,
yeah,
so I
yeah,
don't
but
think he's
like
hit that number yet.
I think everyone has been under the assumption he's just going to get a yellow card because he was getting them so frequently. So I think it is notable that he played this long without getting one, um, especially considering that the officiating in that game in the second half was a little bit crazy in terms of what was a yellow and what was not a yellow. It's very hard to keep up with. One of the things that I think will be the next kind of step in that midfield is that Patrick Yazbek needs to back himself a little bit more when he gets the ball in a dangerous area. There were at least twice where he passed up what should be a shot for someone playing in that role, and it came to nothing to pass it to somewhere. And he just needs to be more confident, um, kind of in those spaces, because if they can start to get goals from midfield like that, because Tagseth hasn't scored either, so Steven's bet there is looking terrible. But but like Tagseth and Yazbek both haven't scored, and maybe that's something that you'd like to keep an eye on because it seems like everyone else is scoring. So it would be nice to see them get off the score sheet.
Yeah, and on that sort of score sheet thing, I think Nashville are more likely to score goals at home, as we have seen. So maybe the next couple games are a good opportunity for them because you don't often get a stretch of 4 home games back to back to back to back, right? So I think what Nashville has been able to maybe cultivate in Geodis Park this season hasn't been there the last couple of years. And, while the crowds were there in 2022 when Geodis Park opened, the home field advantage just really wasn't there. Nashville went from being undefeated at home at Nissan Stadium in 2021 to playing at Geodis Park, a beautiful, beautiful stadium, beautiful soccer specific stadium, the biggest in North America. Some say only in US, but whatever. One of the biggest. And then not able to maybe capitalize on that and turn that into results on the pitch. And so far this season, there are 5 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss at Geodis Park. So you don't want to speak too early. You don't want to, say that Nashville is back at home and having that home record, but it's certainly been an improvement because in this league, year after year, we know how important it is to have that home field advantage. And look, this is a little bit of a preview for next segment. They're playing the Red Bulls on Wednesday, and that's a team Nashville has never beaten, home or away or anywhere else they've played. So, if you, and I'll put this on my preview as well, like if you want to make a statement about this Nashville SC 2.0, this is probably a much better platform to do that than often. Beating Charlotte and Red Bulls, 2 top Eastern Conference teams at home, kind of asserting yourself would be a big statement for this game.
Yeah. And as Valera stated, it's a busy week ahead with 2 matches, and we're going to talk about that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at Pharma Soccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Of course, pharmasoccer.com. Of course, 615soccer.com as well. Please check out all of those spots, locations, things. A lot of cool stuff going on there. So yeah, check that out. We do need people. We need people's helps. We need help in the area of Spotify. Would love people to rate us on Spotify as well. You do it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Again, we'll read out 5-star ratings. If anybody can help me out and make sure that Valer and Clay have to go through the same punishment as I did last week, that would be terrific. So please help me out there. And
You
go to Spotify.
you also have an option of just leaving a 5-star review. It doesn't have to be a crucial punishment for any of us.
It's also true. It's fine. Okay. Before we get into the 2-match week, any MLS storylines that we need? Atlanta's really bad. Is one. LA Galaxy is even worse, I guess, is the other one. But other than that, same league, different week.
I think, I think we have to mention that the Nashville result held for 2 weeks exactly when they beat Chicago 7-2 because the Red Bulls beat LA Galaxy 7-0 on Saturday. So, unfortunately, once a result like that happens, we were talking about how it's probably not going to happen again. And then 2 weeks later, there you go. They kind of top it a little bit. Now, that was an MLS 2024 Cup rematch, so that was a little bit extra there for them. But yeah, Galaxy, I don't know, man. I don't know. Do you guys think Ronnie Dyla at Atlanta will be gone first, or Greg Vanney at the Galaxy?
I think Greg Vanney's going to be gone, which is crazy considering what they did
I
last
know.
year. But it's also just more evidence that winning an MLS Cup is a bit of a crapshoot.
Well,
I
I
know
mean,
that
it
they
would be.
lost a lot. They lost a lot from that team, to be fair. But it's also like you did in back-to-back weeks. You lost a game without a single shot, with the winning team not having a single shot, and then giving up 7 goals.
I mean, you think if Greg Vandy gets fired, though, you think it's possible that Atlanta fires Ronnie Dyla and then hires Greg? Like, it's a possibility that happens.
That'd be crazy. What if they just like switch teams? Like, hey, let's try. Let's
Let's
try this
just see
out.
if this works and this makes it better. I,
What is
I
that? Is it? I've never seen this movie, but is Freaky Friday? Don't they like switch bodies or something like that?
a little bit of a different synopsis, but yes,
Okay,
I would
okay,
say
yeah.
if you're gonna make a movie comparison, Freaky Friday would be
Okay,
the movie
yeah. I've never
comparison that
seen
you
Who
it,
do
make
you
but
for that.
think?
I just
Maybe
had the
Freaky
con.
Friday already have him with Greg Vanney because obviously he's a successful coach. He's won a couple MLS Cups. Who do we think he Freaky Friday'd with? Like, what MLS coach is
Um,
actually inside the body of Greg Vanney?
I'm trying to think of bad coaches that I remember
I mean, there are a
specifically.
lot. I just, from a professional standpoint, I will stay quiet on this one. I don't know. There's so
Do we
many
think? Do we think
names.
Chris Armas is
I was
secretly
gonna say
No, Chris
How's
Armas.
Colorado doing? I would say Chris
No, Chris
Armas,
Armas is doing
absolutely.
great. Look, he took this
No, I
Colorado
know.
team to, yeah.
I'm just joking because Chris Armas
This
is
is
the
the
one who
thing.
took
No,
over
I think
in Toronto.
And I think we have to mention that Vancouver is still incredible and they can do no wrong. And do I like Vancouver a lot? Yes. Do I know why exactly? No. But like, I just really, I don't
Because of
know.
Daniel Rios at right wing.
It's Daniel Rios for sure. I've
Also,
met that man.
is Greg Vandy Freaky Friday with Bob Bradley? Is that who it is? That is the
Dang, dang.
that's
Brett Bradley catching strays on
Anthony
Farmer
Hudson.
Soccer. How the mighty have fallen.
all right. We have 2 matches to talk about this week. This
Carlos
is a
de los
busy.
Cobos. I'm sorry, I'm just naming bad. Go ahead. Sorry.
This is a busy May.
Do you guys
Again, we
remember when Brad Friedel was a coach in MLS?
Oh, that's a good shout. Brad
Sorry,
Friedel is
Steven.
that's a great
he was
shout.
a coach in MLS.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
the one
he
who
had the
took
job
over
title.
New England right before Bruce Arena did, where Bruce Arena just like made New England not a laughing stock anymore.
I still remember just hating Brad Friedel after he made a diving save against a Make a Wish kid, and I thought it was the worst, like a diving save. Like the kid put on a
That
banger shot, and it was a diving save.
that's
It was
classic Liverpool
ridiculous.
behavior.
Yeah,
The I was going to say, which of Cincinnati's failed coaches do we think is inside the body
Oh
of Greg
man,
Vanney? That's the real
yeah.
question.
Speaking of Cincinnati, they're looking pretty good, to be honest with you guys.
Again, I wasn't kidding last week. Like, I think the table is kind of starting to really solidify itself of where it is and what
North
teams are really
Carolina.
good and what teams are
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Can I know we're running way late on this, but can I just say Kevin Denke in Cincinnati scored a bicycle kick, then decided to donate like 150 bicycles to kids in Cincinnati? Really good story. I think it's like how do you take it was his idea. Like he scored a bicycle kick and he was like, I'll just donate bicycles now. Like, you know, what happens when you no, I'm not gonna say that on air. Go on. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Red Bulls and DC United this week, Wednesday, Saturday. Our first MLS Wednesday match of the season. Obviously, we had Open Cup last week. 4 matches in, I don't know, 14 days. It's kind of wild. But I think Valair kind of talked about it in the last segment. If we are looking to make a statement and really climb up the table as kind of that home winning team, both against the Red Bulls and DC United, this is absolutely the week to make a statement.
Yeah, I think Red Bulls is a must not lose. Really, I think if you want to make that statement, and I think DC is a must win just because of where they are on the table. I know there was this reputation of Nashville SC, playing to their opponents. It's been kind of disproven this season a little bit, but still, I think there is a um, I still think it's a smaller sample size so far to crown this Nashville SC team as a good team or like an elite team or anything of that sort. And they are a good team already, maybe not a great team yet, but they could be after these 2 games. I think a couple wins at home, you go away and maybe not lose 3-0 to Seattle. then then you're looking at a team that's top 4, maybe top 5 in the East. That's a really good spot to be. And I think we're talking about these 2 games as one item simply because they're 3 days from each other, right? So it's like these games are back to back and they're coming fast. And again, these are the last 2 home games before they go on a little bit of an away 3 games away, and then they come back. And I think this Red Bull team is inconsistent if we're talking about Red Bull specifically, and then for this DC team, this has been dreadful.
It is really funny though that DC United does have a higher goal differential than Atlanta and is still beating Atlanta in the standings at the current moment. But I think DC United specifically, I mean, they're a team that has 25 goals against already in the season, the highest in the Eastern Conference. It's a team that if you're looking to score those chances and even gain more confidence, you can. But also, again, a team like the Red Bulls that we've never beaten, a team when we went into New York this season, it, I mean, we talked about it, kind of got out coached there as well. When it came to how the team was prepared and set up, where Red Bulls really kind of smacked us in the face. So it's an opportunity that we can kind of take it to the next step. So if you guys want to get into the predictions for both matches, I'll let Clay kind of go first and go from there.
Well, I was just gonna talk about the games, because I hadn't gotten a
Well,
chance to yet.
yeah, do that, and then do your predictions.
But, speaking of DC specifically, like, the level of shipping goals that they've been doing this year is pretty crazy. They gave away 6 to San Jose, 4 to Orlando City, 3 to Philly. They've really, really struggled at times when they've been outmatched in these games, which is the type of team that Nashville's taken advantage against. What really stands out to me going into that home form thing with Nashville is Nashville's got 1 home loss, and that 1 home loss was on a penalty in the 91st minute. And so, like, that is the difference, really, from being talked about kind of as a contender. So I think, like, that's just a really big nugget on there to think about because that 1 loss was to a good Cincinnati team. So I think that these are 2 teams that Nashville should take care of. I imagine that they are finally going to get the Red Bulls off their back and finally get a win over the Red Bulls. And so I'm going to go 2-1. And then after the Nashville wins 2-1 against the Red Bulls, you can let me know how right I was at Clay Lassol on Twitter and on Instagram. You can also check out Nashville Soccer Archive and maybe learn more about Nashville's previous games against DC United. And then you can settle in on Saturday for a 1-1 draw against DC United.
Oh
Just to be
God.
the classic MLS thing and not smoke the team that they probably should smoke of the 2.
And I will say, just on that Red Bull game, Matt Corcoran and White Meyer started in midfield for Nashville, which feels like ages ago now. It was on March 1st, like just a couple months ago. So, like, it just feels like a long time ago that this team was different back then. And I think Nashville has improved tremendously. That said, I do think with the rotation that's going on and the injury to Walker Zimmerman and and Taylor Washington as well. I just think at one point these sort of games are going to catch up, and this fatigue is going to catch up with the players. And Red Bulls are an exhausting team to play, regardless of home and away. So my prediction is a draw against Red Bulls, a 2-2 draw to be specific, because Nashville seems to be able to score goals. I just don't know if they're going to be able to keep them from the other end. Goals from Hani Mokhtar continues his form, and Sam Surridge scored. Pretty easy, two DPs. And then Nashville will play a very convincing 5-2 win against DC, where Benteke scores a brace, but Hani Mokhtar scores a hat trick, and Sam Surridge scores one, and Eddie Taxev gets a goal. So those are my two predictions. And you can follow me at Valer Shabila on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram. Also, 615 Soccer. I'm doing a couple of shows on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. So catch me on those. You can get the details on my socials. So thanks for listening, I guess.
These non-optimistic curmudgeons thinking we're going to go win and draw here. This is absolutely absurd. This is not what you look for when you listen to this show. So I apologize profusely for my two cohorts here that are going through this. Red Bulls, even with rotation, 3-0 win. Jacob Schaffelberg scores a hat trick on Wednesday. And then we bring, you guys did not even bring this up. We bring in against DC United both Lucas McNaughton and Randall Leal back into town against DC. It's not going to matter because we're going to win 3-0 again. 2 matches in a row, and it's going to be a goal from Palacios and 2 goals from Eddie Taxeth. He's going to score 2 in one match.
Leal came in on an Open Cup match off the bench and had 2 assists to help win for DC United. So good for him there. I think Lucas McNaughton might be hurt. I'll keep you posted on that one.
Leal also played against Toronto at the weekend.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the show. Again, appreciate it. We know this show had a different tone, especially in the beginning, but still appreciate you being a part of it. We'll talk about these 2 matches next week, of course. Thank you again so much for listening, and we will talk to you later.